As is always the case this time of the year, speculation about the NFL draft is running rampant, though I will say that things are fairly reserved on the wild player speculation front this season. Oh, player X is a top 5 pick when no one else has him in the top 20. That sort of stuff is kind of gone by the wayside. But one of the popular questions that always comes up this time of the year: who should be trading up, who should be trading down, and why? I am kind of always of the mindset that you entertain both of these ideas, but there is an article today advocating for the Kansas City Chiefs to trade down in an article titled "4 NFL Teams Who Could Trade Back for More Picks in the 2025 NFL Draft," subtitled "Fans of these teams shouldn't get too comfortable when they are on the clock," from SB Nation by Joseph Acosta. We get the following. With the overall consensus around this draft class being that it's not as strong as previous years, there's bound to be some excitement surrounding the first round of the NFL draft come April 24th. There could be a dozen different mock drafts with a dozen different outcomes in them, leading for a chaotic first round, potentially full of trades. But which teams are the most primed to trade back and stockpile day 2 picks? Here are 4 teams that probably won't be making a pick at their designated slot next Thursday night. Kansas City Chiefs. It always seems the Chiefs could end up trading back in the first round. More often than not, it's because they're picking at 31 or 32. But this year, I think it would make sense for KC to trade back. If there's a run on defensive tackles or offensive linemen early on in the draft, 2 of the stronger parts of this class, Kansas City could end up moving back and trying to stockpile day 2 picks so they can bolster a roster that is aging rapidly. In addition, so aging rapidly is kind of a weird phrase to say because you're not aging more than 1 year at a time, but I kind of get what he means. In addition, if a team really wants a QB, Cleveland, and wants to get the 5th-year option on their guy, Kansas City moving from 31 to 33 doesn't seem like bad business at all. This is the real we talk about this on this channel all the time, a team wanting to come up and get a quarterback because the Chiefs are always picking 30th, 31st, 32nd, and that 5th-year option on a quarterback is a big deal. So if there's a guy that kind of falls and a team does want him, will they come up? But so there are several questions around this, though. So here are some just sort of preliminary thoughts that I have on this question. If there's a guy worth trading up for. Now, so the premise here is that this is a weaker class. So this is maybe not a weaker class. It's a fairly deep class. It is not a top-heavy class, certainly not as top-heavy as we have seen the past couple of years. So, that being the case, will teams at the top of the draft decide to value that guy that they can get at pick 16 because he's one of 16 true first-rounders in this class, right? So, will those teams covet those picks in order to get better for next year? Or will they say, let me trade down and stockpile picks later on in the draft? And if they do that, are there going to be a lot of teams doing that? Because if there are a lot of teams doing that, the trade price for moving up in the draft could be deflated. So, this might be one of those times where it makes sort of paradoxical sense to move up. There's 16 guys in this class that are true first rounders that'll come in and start week 1, snap 1 at whatever position they play, right? That's a true first rounder. You have the measurables, you have the film, you have the everything that it takes to be on the field week 1, snap 1. There's 16 of those guys in this draft class. Just for example, I don't know the general consensus on this actual class. You have pick 17. Man, that stinks, doesn't it? You have pick 17. You need a running back. None of those 16 guys is a running back. So you see how the value of those earlier picks gets depressed, and then trading back becomes a much more intriguing option for the team that holds the 16th pick. So the Chiefs get a discounted trade to move up to 16, and there they get their left tackle, right? So the question is, for the Chiefs, do you move up? Do you move back? Brett Veach, I think, he will have all of the scenarios written down. I think he's talked about this before. He's made all of the calls prior to the draft. So he will know I don't know the number 10 team. I don't know off the top of my head who it is. We'll say that it is the Bears. I think that might be right. We'll say it's the Bears. He knows before draft night what that trade would look like. He knows before draft night, if I want to get up to 10 from 31, I have to trade 31, next year's 1, this year's 2, next year's 3. He'll know all of that beforehand. Now, those things can change as players slip, etc., but he'll know the ballpark. So he'll be able to pull that trigger. He'll know what it means to move up, what it means to move back. He will have had those conversations. Does it make sense to trade down for the Chiefs to stockpile players? I think that this is an interesting question. You're looking at a team that has been to 3 consecutive Super Bowls. How many third-round picks do they really need? How many guys? So third-rounders, classically, traditionally, what you're looking at is a guy who has either the production or the measurables or the tools, right? The tools being the arm length, the measurables being the 40, the tape being, hey, he's got 3 consecutive 1,000-yard seasons in college as a wide receiver, right? Those are the 3. That's kind of the triumvirate. First rounders usually check all 3 of those boxes. They might not have every tool. They're tall enough and they've got the arm length, but this or that isn't quite right. Or they've got the good 40-yard dash, but maybe they don't have the broad jump, right? But they have some of all of these things. This is where the Raiders used to get themselves in trouble because they didn't care about production in college. They would just go get the guy who was the biggest, strongest, and fastest, and they do it in the first round. Well, you don't have to do that in the first round because normally that's where a guy goes in the second round. You check all 3 of those boxes, you're a first rounder. You check 2 of those boxes, you're a second rounder. 1 of those boxes, you're a third rounder. Well, maybe you don't have the production in college, but you can still be a starter in the NFL. It does not preclude you from being a starter in the NFL. It just means it might take you some extra work, some extra looks, some extra reps to get there. So normally, guys in the third round, unless they're taken at a position of need, don't start. How many guys do the Kansas City Chiefs really need that don't have the opportunity to come in and start? That's the question for this team. How many backups do they really need? They've spent a couple of draft classes now accumulating those players. I don't think through any real fault of Brett Veach. I think it's just the fact that, hey, you're drafting at 31, you're drafting at 32 every year. It's going to be difficult to find those guys that can come in and make an impact immediately. The problem is the FAUs of the world have not gotten better. The Hunter Noorzads of the world are going to continue to get drafted over because Brett Veach isn't screwing around at the offensive line anymore. So there are some interesting questions around this because I think that there are only a few positions on the field where it makes sense for the Kansas City Chiefs to really go after this depth strategy. And then you have to be hoping that someone at that position falls. For example, defensive tackle. The Chiefs could use a starting defensive tackle. The Chiefs could use a second string defensive tackle. The Chiefs could use a second starting edge. I believe. I don't know what we're going to see from Charles Omenihu. It just seems to never work out. And I think that the Chiefs could use, a backup, a rotational edge. So I don't know. I'm not sold on the prospect of trading down this season. I think that it could work for the Chiefs. I think that they could find the guys who are going to be the next wave of starters on this team in the second and third round. I'm just not sold without seeing the draft board and how it's fallen on the prospect of trading back. And finally, the author here mentioned that the Chiefs are starting to get old. That is a strange perspective. Just a couple years ago, the Chiefs were the youngest team in the league by snap count. And that is not the case anymore. And a lot of it is their players have been homegrown and are sticking around. So it's interesting to see this sort of evolution for the Kansas City Chiefs, and this evolution for the Kansas City Chiefs in a way that has made the payroll go a little bit wonky as well. Anyway, guys, that's what I have for this video. If you like or appreciate what it is that I do here, hitting the like button really does help me out, as it tells YouTube to share this video with other Kansas City Chiefs fans. And if you find yourself here by chance but not design, the Kansas City Chiefs are the only thing that I talk about on this channel, dropping multiple videos every single week. We have uploaded videos here every day for over 2 years, and as always, I hope to have you back for the next one.